Hey everyone, welcome to Geekdom Forecast, and today we are going to review Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The Falcon and Winter Soldier is the second installment in the Phase 4 of the MCU. It just dropped a few weeks after the WandaVision finale, and just like WandaVision, it aims to put a spotlight on characters which played supporting roles to the big three in the MCU. The series is created by Malcolm Spellman, and you may have already guessed it. It is about Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes dealing with the aftermath of Steve Rogers retiring from his role as Captain America. Just like WandaVision, each episode of the series used to release on a weekly basis with its average runtime of 40 to 50 minutes. This show, as expected, was supposed to be political and live up to the Captain America trilogy films, which I believe is the best in the MCU. While WandaVision did address the emotional fallout of the main character, Falcon and Winter Soldier is about the socio-political and economic fallout of the blip. So how does this show fare in the MCU? Let's find out. I think the heart of this show is the journey of Sam Wilson. He is the focal point in the entire series. In Avengers Endgame, we did see him say that the shield felt like it belonged to someone else. From the very first episode itself, Sam is filled with self-doubt and the burden of continuing the legacy of Captain America, and thus he hangs up the shield. And the first few episodes carefully shed light on these aspects very well. In the series, Sam is tasked to stop a group of rebels going by the name of Flag Smashers. To stop these people, Sam and Bucky, along with Baron Zemo, delve deep into the dark underbelly of the super soldier black market. And lo and behold, Sharon Carter is here. She had gone MIA after the entire Civil War fiasco and now is a fugitive and also an illegal art dealer in Madripoor. Sam also has to deal with the subtle and not so subtle bouts of institutional racism, which is shown primarily through his story. Sam knows that taking the responsibility of the shield will raise a lot of eyebrows, for he is not a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes, as told by Isaiah Bradley. And speaking of which, the story of Isaiah Bradley is easily the highlight of the show. It was amazing to see that in this big, bombastic and loud world of the MCU, more serious themes such as racism being addressed in the series. Bradley was a black super soldier who rescued his fellow army personnel and fought Bucky during the 1950s. However, instead of being honored and recognized, he was experimented on and jailed for over 30 years. This is in fact a stark contrast to the fanfare and celebration received by Steve Rogers. The story of Bradley is gut-wrenching and he now lives as a bitter man. Sam meets him and is astounded and appalled by the fact that no one knew about a black super soldier that existed decades ago. This in turn further makes Sam introspect about the complicated history of the Shield. John Walker turned into one of the most hated figures in the MCU, and this is in part of the solid writing by the team and the fine acting by Wyatt Russell himself. He is the state-sponsored Captain America, the one backed by the Department of Defense itself, and this in turn is a complete 180 from Steve Rogers. Walker has the constant need to prove himself that he is worthy of the new role. In fact, Walker here is a lot more humanized than his comic book counterpart. We are made to empathize with his situation, that he is what he is. Walker tries to work with Sam and Bucky but is never given a chance. For them, Steve is Captain America, and Bucky, being loyal to a fault, cannot accept anyone take the shield other than Sam or his buddy Steve. The coming of the new Captain America is met with celebrations and fanfare, much to the chagrin of our heroes. In an effort to offer his help, he comes across as a cocky soldier just following orders. Walker reaches his tipping point when he loses a fight against the Wakandians, and he says that they're not even super soldiers. In his desperation, in his last bidding to prove himself, he takes the super soldier serum and goes one-on-one against the Flag Smashers. And that's when tragedy hits him. His partner, Lamar, aka Battlestar, is killed during a fight, and in a fit of rage, he kills a member of the Flag Smashers while the whole world, the entire world, was watching him. That image of a blood-stained shield is not just a silent metaphor, but a loud statement about the current political climate. Walker faces the penalty for his actions, but he is a soldier after all. He followed orders, he did what he was told, and like he says, "You created me." Yes, Steve Rogers did take the serum. Yes, he had superpowers. But what made him truly worthy, was his passion, honor, and a sense of duty. He never chose the wrong path, and what he did was always right. Walker is in fact a cautionary tale of what could have happened had the serum been given to someone who was drunk with power. Although John Walker's final arc was very rushed, but seeing him choosing to save civilians instead of going after Carly Morgenthau spoke volumes of his character. He's not just bound by revenge anymore, but by doing the right thing. Zemo is amazing in this show. Sure, there is that cliche of working with the villain, but it's done well. Yes, he has his own agenda, but whenever he was on screen, he was charismatic in his own way. His ideology on the Avengers and super soldiers is pretty intense, if you ask me. What would you do if there's so much unchecked power? Where are the checks and balances? In fact, can these superhumans do what they want to do just because they can? Who holds them accountable? Zemo's hatred from them stems from the Sokovia incident back in Age of Ultron. Carly Morgenthau's Flag Smashers is a reactionary group of rebels or terrorists depending on what spectrum you want to look at. They believed that the world was better when Thanos wiped out half the universe. That was when the world was without borders, hence their outcry or slogan, "One world, one people." Joe takes his time to show the true intent behind these Flag Smashers. Yes, we are told in the first episode of their ideology, but that was just exposition. We also see them being pursued by the anonymous power broker who, lo and behold, is Sharon Carter, but I will come to that. Although the villains kind of had a cosmopolitan viewpoint of the world, they were just not compelling enough for me. At times, I was even confused if they are confused about their own ideology. And then there is the GRC or the Global Repatriation Council. The actions of the GRC is the reason why these events even take place. It's about the controversial Patch Act which is being passed. This act would seek to restore traditional border regulations and fast-track normalcy. Once again, a nice callback to real-world scenarios of border and identity politics. However, it is not till the end of the series that we actually see the GRC, and that too it felt flat. If the GRC was so important, they would have been in the spotlight, just like the Flag Smashers. Maybe then the Flag Smashers would have had a little bit of legitimacy. I mean, I would not mind seeing a House of Cards like approach with the GRC. This is supposed to be a political show. Bring on the actual politics which goes on. This would work wonders for the show. In fact, every character, everything would be elevated. But alas, the GRC felt like a footnote in the entire series. Yes, I understand the show was never going to have an identifiable villain like Loki or Thanos or Red Skull. This approach kinda reminded me of the last two Captain America movies. The Winter Soldier was never the villain. He was just a puppet with Alexander Pierce being the puppet master. That worked well for Winter Soldier because the movie was mostly about secret societies and surveillance. In Civil War, Zemo was just a person who wanted revenge on the Avengers. He knew he can never outmuscle them. So what did he do? He wanted to break the Avengers. He created the Civil War. He caused the Civil War, which fractured the Avengers, and he won. As for this show, with John Walker, the Flag Smashers, GRC, and of course the Power Broker running around, it did not quite hit the mark and it just felt a little messy. James Buchanan Barnes is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I remember watching Captain America Winter Soldier in 2014 and Civil War in 2016 and just loving it completely. He was perhaps one of the better fleshed out characters in the MCU. In fact, in Infinity War and Endgame, It did not have much to do because I understand you need to cater to the other characters as well. So, no complaints. When I saw the first episode of the series, I saw a PTSD Bucky making amends. He's attending therapy sessions and trying to shake off his days as the Winter Soldier. He's trying his best to adjust to society. He has made a new friend, potentially getting a new date, much like Steve when he came out of the ice. Then he sees the new Captain America and he is pissed off. And that was all. This was the only thing about Bucky. There was nothing much. You might say he adds Zemo to the equation, but most of the time he's not even doing anything relevant. He's just next to Sam, either bickering or looking stoic. In fact, I don't even remember Bucky having a decent action scene. I wanted a Bucky dealing with his past transgressions more intimately and trying to do better. A conflicted Bucky who either wants to help Sam stop Carly or end her. That was just not there. Yes, in the end, he is hanging with Sam's family and he's super happy to the point he's playing with the kids and not hiding his metal arm. Hell, that conversation between Bucky and Sam in episode 5, that was amazing. But the rest was very dull. The transition in Bucky's character from the Winter Soldier to fully embracing the White Wolf, that was a sight for sore eyes. The journey leading to the White Wolf was average at best. And now we come to the final episode. The series was slated to have 6 episodes. It was a mini series after all, but boy did it feel rushed in the end. In fact, the show had such a strong start, but the climax for me felt really abrupt. I think that the only thing it got right was Sam Wilson finally becoming Captain America. In fact, I would say this was done better in the series than the comics. Isaiah finally getting his due recognition was one of the most poignant and heartfelt moments in the MCU, and that final embrace between Sam and Isaiah was just the icing on the cake. But Carly's death out of nowhere just did not feel right, and Sharon Carter as the power broker was so predictable. In fact, this felt random to me more than a shock factor. But hey, she'll be selling government secrets, so I'm fine with that. And Sam, Bucky, and John Walker working together did not feel natural. I get that they are united for a common cause now, but in the last episode, in episode 5, I believe, Sam and Bucky thrashed John and Sam took the shield. And now Bucky is acknowledging him about quoting Lincoln? Yeah, there was some disparity there. Maybe had there been 2 more episodes, this would have fleshed out even better. Overall, the build-up was very strong, but the finish was very weak. The Falcon and Winter Soldier had a very strong start and was very character driven. The series is mostly conversational in nature, which I really enjoyed. Sure, there is a healthy dose of action which was fun, but they were not memorable, save for Sam's scene in the opening episode. They did tackle the issue of racism and other socio-political connotations of a world without Steve Rogers. However, it did not stick the landing in the end, and the series did come to an abrupt end, and the show felt very average in most parts. Hence, I'm giving this show a decent 7.5 out of 10. Alright, guys, that's it for today. If you do like what we are doing, give us a like, hit share, and do subscribe. And also, Mortal Kombat is coming out, and we are also going to be covering